losing some of his breath, and then next thing you know, he's in intensive care.
Later, you say, I thought he was going to die. Now, we know a lot more now. Get it? Remdesivir, we didn't even know about then, even though it was out there. We weren't using it for this. Gordon, listening on WLKF in Florida. Hey, Gordon.
Hey, thanks for taking my call so fast. Listen, the GOP are doing two very stupid things, and if we don't stop them, first, we are not using tele-remote conferencing in the Senate like the House is to get our nominee. And number two, even Matt Gaetz in the House Judiciary Committee supported H.R. 2648 student loan bankruptcy. It is not a free handout. The Constitution's uniformity clause requires bankruptcy, and if we don't support student loan bankruptcy, people are going to say Trump gets bankruptcy, but not you.
On the other thing, on the prior thing, they can use. We already just saw it with James Comey. How many people were remote and weren't in the Capitol building? They can get Amy Coney Barrett going on October 19th, and they can have a general floor vote on the 30th. And you just got to make sure that all 51 Republicans show up. If the Democrats don't want to show up, it is indeed up to them. But keep in mind, too, two of the three Republican senators who tested positive, two were on the Judiciary Committee. So you got to hope that Senator Tillis, who wore a mask through most of the ceremony, where everyone thinks it took place for Barrett at the Rose Garden, he was wearing a mask most of the time. They said he has extremely mild symptoms. Senator Mike Lee, we had his former chief of staff on today. He says he's recovering well. The symptoms are mild for him, too. So if the symptoms are mild, you have 2 negative tests. The CDC says you can get out in 10 days. So we should have plenty of time to do it. Plus, you can function. I mean, we saw that early with Rand Paul. You can function. So that's something to keep in mind, too. So the President of the United States could be getting out. What concerns me about this is, number one, 5 days of remdesivir. Number two, I would not want to strain my medical staff. I had 9 people working on it. They prefer you at Walter Reed, I am sure. And my fear is that the President of the United States saying he wants to do something is not like you or I doing it, where a doctor could push back. Are they going to sign off and say, okay, I am going to release myself from the president because he's not listening to me? My hope is they're responsible about it. I'm going to ask Dr. Mark Siegel that in just a moment, and we're going to talk back to you.
Fox News Radio on demand on the Fox News app. Download the app and just click listen. When you swipe left, you can listen to your favorite Fox News talk shows live. Swipe right for the latest Fox News Radio newscasts on demand. Fox News Radio on the Fox News app. Download it today. The fastest 3 hours in radio. You're with Brian Kilmeade.
Has he ever been on supplemental oxygen? Right now, he is not on oxygen. I know you keep saying right now, but should we read into the fact that he had been previously? Yesterday and today, he was not on oxygen.
So he has not been on it during his COVID treatment?
Today, the former VP will be in Miami's Little Haiti and Little Havana neighborhoods discussing his Build Back Better plan to reduce unemployment for blacks and Hispanics, and then appearing tonight at the Perez Art Museum in an NBC News town hall with undecided voters. Red flags are being raised as Miami-Dade County schools open their doors for the first time.
Okay, now this is political editor and editor-in-chief of the Register, Gordon Wayne Watts. I'm going to try and cue up 1323 where Alan supposedly comes in. 10, oops.
Inflammatory response to the immune system.
It's 1323.
Filling the lungs, essentially, with inflammatory fluid, making it difficult to breathe. Many people can go into respiratory distress. Now, the president's already on steroids, but he could still be in for that. And so I think the doctors over the next couple of days are going to be very attuned to his symptoms
someone doesn't
and
make
his
noise in the
oxygen
background
saturation.
where I live.
Dr. Anand Parekh with us until the end of our program today, 10 a.m. Eastern, and plenty of callers for you already this morning. We'll start working our way through them. This is Alan in Wisconsin. Up first, good morning.
Yeah, just 2 quick comments. I live here in northern Wisconsin. It's basically Trump country, and our mask wearing rate is 95%. So I think the scientists and the politicians give themselves a little too much credit for all of this. I think people have pretty good sense. And I don't have a problem with the president's pandemic response, but I have a big problem with his economic response. Wall Street is doing great, but we've got 55 million people in this country who are essentially conquered and enslaved under predatory student loan debt. Now, the president has the power to cancel these loans by executive order. he could do that without requiring one dime of congressional appropriation, without adding one penny to the national debt. And the last time I checked, 80% of those 55 million people were never going to be able to repay their loans in the first place.
All right, that's Alan in Wisconsin this morning. Doctor,
Sure.
As we're talking about the coronavirus response and the fiscal side of this, as the caller was talking about, what more do you think the medical community needs in terms of funding? What needs to happen on that side rather than the business side and the individual side that we talked about already this morning back in our first hour of the Washington Journal?
Sure, John, and if you don't mind, I'll just address Alan's first question on masks.
Sure.
Right now, Wisconsin is really ground zero. For the last couple of days, Wisconsin experienced the most number of COVID-19 cases over the last 6 months. The positivity rate is close to 20%. And Alan, I unfortunately, the mask rate is not 95%, anywhere near that. Frankly, no state is anywhere near that. And so there's a lot that needs to be done in Wisconsin. I know the governor has issued some new mandates in terms of limiting indoor gatherings, but I think the state of Wisconsin, it's going to be so important over the next coming weeks to ensure that everyone is wearing a mask in public, that there's good hand hygiene, again, respiratory etiquette, physical distancing, limitations in terms of indoor gathering, as well as testing, particularly in asymptomatic populations. I think, John, in answer to the second question, I think there are a lot of people, and I think on both sides of the aisle, who were hoping that both parties could come together and pass a COVID-19 stimulus package. And I think we're pretty disheartened to hear the president saying that there would be no new negotiations yesterday. I think both Speaker Pelosi as well as the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin had been working on a package, around a ballpark of about perhaps $2 billion. Initially, the Democrats wanted to be at around $3 trillion. Republicans wanted to be under $1 trillion. So there seemed to be a potential compromise there in terms of a $2 trillion package. And I think it's so important both on the economic front. The caller, Alan, mentioned the importance of sort of waiving student loans, but everything from unemployment insurance benefits, additional stimulus checks, support the state and local governments, that is all essential to ensure the economy continues to move forward. But also, I would say, in terms of the public health response, there are many elements in the package related to testing and tracing. We know we need that. There are elements related to vaccine distribution. The CDC director is on record saying that we don't have the funding for vaccine distribution. There were important elements there related to rental assistance, nutrition assistance. I mean, these are all so important for people to get by during these hard times. There was some support for healthcare providers as well. So I think it's pretty disheartening. I mean, this is a really concerning time for so many Americans. There's so many hardships. And I think there was hope that both parties could come together to pass both sort of an economic stimulus as well as funding to support the public health response. Unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Back to Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. This is Lonnie. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. Firstly, I would just like to make a statement. I don't believe the president ever had COVID. I think it was a sham. Basically, being released from the hospital in 3 days, the doctors being evasive, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And then taking the mask off the terrace to wave to the public. I mean, to me, it was a total sham.
Well, let's take that up. Dr. Pavlik, your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think, it's pretty clear that, I haven't myself seen the test results, but I think it's pretty clear that the president, did in fact test positive for COVID-19. Last Friday, October 2nd, he likely underwent sort of a deterioration in his symptoms and his oxygen saturation.
Okay, now I'm going to stop it right there
because hospitalized at Walter Reed.
This is off
he has
topic.
had pretty.
That was C-SPAN. I probably have run out of fast data. I'm pretty close to it. I'm going to go ahead and turn my data off right here. Okay, this is, by the way, I think this was earlier today that Alan said. Today is Wednesday, 7th of October, 7th of October, 2020. It's late in the evening here, but that was on C-SPAN. I believe his name is Dr. Annette Perique, if I can remember right. I think he was from Health and Human Services from the George W. Bush administration. In any event, that was Alan M. Collinge of StudentLoanJustice.org fame, and he was calling in, and of course this was mainly a health show, and there was some discussion in forum about, it looks like they were not enthusiastic, which is true, but to his credit, the doctor did take up the economic matter a little bit, and lamented that there was no response from the two parties using bipartisan cooperation with one another. But in any event, this is political and legal editor and writer, and then editor-in-chief of the Register, GordonWatts.com and GordonWayneWatts.com. And guess what? I'm Gordon Wayne Watts, reporting live from Plant City, Florida, formerly from Lakeland, Florida, and both of those are squarely between Tampa and Orlando, Florida. Reporting live from the Register here, snagging that off of C-SPAN under fair use for the legal purposes, for commentary, criticism, and academic research purposes. I've snagged the small fair use clip. Again, thanks for all my readers, listeners, and viewers. This is Gordon Wayne Watts reporting live, and have a nice day.